Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's video, we're going to be stopping off in Strasbourg, Virginia. Yes, I'm on a road trip down to West Virginia, so I stopped off in this little burg here in Virginia, right off of 81, and it is a place called the Strasbourg Flea Market. At least that's the way they're known on Facebook, but as I'm sitting here right in front of their building, the sign on the building says the Strasbourg Emporium Antiques. I'm literally looking up, reading the sign right now. And I'm assuming it's the same place. The GPS took me right here. So I'm sitting here getting ready to go in. I'm hoping to find some comic books today. They look like they had a lot of collectibles that fit in our genre that we like. Obviously, it's toys, video games, things like that, old pulp. I think I saw a few comics in some of their photos, but we're just going to stop by and we're going to see what we can find. Hopefully, I'll be able to take some footage in here and show you some of the things that I'm seeing today. And I hope you guys enjoy the footage, and I will be back, and hopefully I'll have some comics to show off as well. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so we ended up picking up a couple comic books from the Strasbourg flea market. Nothing too exciting. They really didn't have a lot of comics, and they did have a lot of toys. They had a lot of other stuff, and the place was a lot bigger than I expected, to be honest with you. But they really didn't have a lot of comics. So what I decided to do, since I was still heading to West Virginia, I decided to stop off in Verona, Virginia at a place I've been to before. It is the Factory Antique Mall. It is advertised as the largest antique mall in America, and this place is huge. And if you want to check out some of the footage I've taken from here before, I'll leave a link in the description below. You can go back to that, my last video on that. I've done a couple of them so far. They are loaded with all kinds of stuff, but they've only got a couple of comic book dealers, and they've got some comic books scattered throughout. So I figured I'd stop by. It's been a couple months since I've been here. Let's stop by, see if they've restocked anything, and maybe we'll find something today. So stay tuned for this, and we'll be right back again. All right, guys, I just finished up at the Factory Antique Mall. As I said, the largest antique mall in America, and I will tell you this, it was packed in there today. A lot of people out here on this Sunday doing some antiquing, and it was packed, and it took a while to get out of there, but I was able to go through, and since I've been here a couple times now, I know kind of where the comic book dealers are. Might end up missing something if somebody's new, but I kind of knew where the comic book dealers were. And I took a little bit of footage in there, and you saw a little bit of that. And I was able to pick up a handful of comics, and some of them are very minor keys, and some of them are pretty cool comics just to have. And then I picked up one bigger book, but I will show that to you once I get home and set up, and I'll show you all the books I picked up today. So stay tuned, and I'll get right back to you. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed the footage from both of these antique malls. Both of them, I had a great time. It was my first experience at the Strasbourg flea market. It was an antique mall, and I know that they go by a different name. We saw it there on the wall of the store, but because of them being on Facebook, and that's where I found them, and it popped up, and they had a lot of toys in their photos, comic book related toys. So I figured there'd be a few comics there, and I wasn't sure what to find. When I went through their photos, I didn't see any comics, but we just took a chance, and this was on the way down to my home down in West Virginia, and that's where I am now. You can see I'm on location in West Virginia right now, relaxing and having a good time. I always enjoy coming back home. This is my childhood home, so still love it. Still love coming down here. Now, the Factory Antique Mall is someplace that I've been to before. Of course, I've already talked about that. We've done 2 different episodes on that mall, finding comics there. So I didn't spend a lot of time looking around that mall as much as I did just going directly to the places where I knew there were comics. But because it's so big, I was definitely watching out and seeing if they had comics at other places along the way. Now, I didn't, but still, it was still good, and I still find a few good books. And in fact, the last book that I'm going to show today is, you've already seen it. It's in that display case that you saw in some of that earlier footage there. The rest of the books here from the Factory Antique Mall all came from that very first dealer, the one where I started going through those bins. They all came from them, and that's where I've been buying most of my comics when I go to this antique mall. And I was happy that this time seemed like he had restocked, and he had a bunch of new books in there. When I say new, different books. None of these really were new books. Now, some of the other dealers that had comics had much more newer books, and I looked over everything, and the conditions were not good, and I really didn't see anything special to talk about. But then the last book I ended up buying from one of the cases, and that's the last book I'll talk about today. But let's just start with Strasbourg Flea Market. And as I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to find comics, but I did. Nothing significant. So if you guys are looking for comics, I wouldn't recommend this place. The books that I've got here are meaningful to me, and they're minor keys, but nothing that you need to go out of your way for, to be quite honest. But if you're looking for toys, collectible toys of all kinds of things, they had a ton of old toys and parts and tons of books and other magazines as well, but very, very light on the comic books. But we did find some comic books, so let's just go through them real quick. This right here, if you recognize it, this is Mike Grell's John Sable, and this is one of the 2 key issues from that run. This is the first appearance of Maggie the cat. She's a cat burglar, and this is a book that I have gotten Mike Grell to sign. In fact, I think I got him to sign that earlier this year at Heroes Con. I had that, the very first issue, and I had this issue, and I had him sign it. Then we didn't get him graded or anything. It was just for the PC. And I couldn't pass this up. And to be quite honest, I go to places like this, and I don't have the willpower to just bypass and not buy something. And to be honest, I spent it was just under $9 for all 3 of these books here today at Strasbourg. But I couldn't pass this up. It's in really nice shape. And Mike Grell is going to be into Baltimore Comic Con, which this episode may come out, it'll come out after the con. So by the point you see this, I'm hoping that this might be signed at that point. We'll see. The next book I picked up is actually a book that I've looked for before, but only very casually. Like if I ran across it, I was definitely going to pick it up. And this is one of those occasions. Happened to be the first bin I was going through, and like, wait a minute, I need that book. I've got this entire run, this whole storyline from issue 2 to the very end. And every time I've looked at places to buy this book, because you can't find it at every dealer because it's from the late 80s. It was a limited print run, I'm sure. And sometimes the prices are kind of astronomical. I mean, we're not talking Silver Age Fantastic Four. We're talking it's a much lesser book, but the fact is that they're overpriced for what it should be. Anyway, let me show you too. It's from Eclipse Comics. This is, I'm going to butcher this, Kamui. I have no idea. It is the genuine ninja story, and this character here, and this is kind of feudal Japan, and got lots of ninja arts and fights, and it's kind of an interesting story. I was really digging the story back in the 80s, back when I was in college, and I never had issue number 1. For whatever reason, I just got on issue number 2, and I think it went through, I want to say, somewhere between 36 and 40, maybe. I'm not sure what the print run was, but this wasn't bad. So that was a really good find for a whole $3 right there. Found a book in a place where I wasn't sure there was going to be comics. I found the book that actually kind of completes a run of books. And then the last book is a book that I didn't need to pick up, but it's meaningful to me because it's probably one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. It has one of my favorite artists, and the fact is I own an original art page from this run. I don't know which issue it's from, but gotta say, I couldn't pass this up. I've bought multiple copies of this, but let's see if you guys recognize this. This is from Batman Legends of the Dark Knight. This is issue number 14. And when they started this book, it was from the early adventures of Batman, and they would do these 5-issue storylines, and this was the third of those storylines, issues 10 through 14. And the artist, of course, is Paul Gulacy, and I'm like, I love this story. It's a whole story of his first meeting, Bruce Wayne's first meeting with Hugo Strange. And you've got the secondary villain, Night Scourge, in this. That was a new character that they introduced in this. And one of the pages I own actually has that character on it. So I always thought that was pretty cool. And this is a really nice copy. This is one of those, I ever see Paul Gulacy again, I'll probably take the whole series of these books and try to get those signed again. Now, I've gotten him to sign that original art, and I may already have these signed. I don't know, but that's definitely something I would hold on for another Paul Gulacy appearance. But that was it from Strasbourg Flea Market. Now, the other place was, of course, Factory Antique Mall. And as I said, all of these books are here, except for the last one that I've got sitting over here, is from the first dealers you see in the footage. You see all the bins set up. And then this is what I pulled out of there. And nothing significant, but there's actually some pretty good books in here. So let's just go through them. So after buying that Maggie the Cat issue from Mike Grail, John Sable issue, I ran across this. This is issue number 1. So I said, let me go ahead and get this because that's the other key issue from this run. I'll take these both back. I may have Mike Grail sign both of these. And then they had a small run of some Superman books. And I'm going, wait a minute, those look like Neil Adams covers. So I ended up, for about $3 a piece here, I picked up Superman number 307. And I didn't, if it was in bad condition, I wouldn't have picked them up. These are all really nice. This is issue 308. Now, this is a book I had as a kid, but I never knew that was Neil Adams doing the cover. But now, knowing more than I did when I was a kid, that's definitely a Neil Adams cover. And this one is issue number 314. Let me see, I've got the light on it there. Sorry about that, guys. There you go. So for $3 a piece, I couldn't pass up 3 really groovy Neil Adams covers there. Now this, I only got for one reason, and I'll show it to you. I picked up 2 copies of this. This is Legionnaires number 1. I want to say this came out probably in the late 80s. This is about 88 probably. I'm not sure. But I only picked it up because both copies, and let me zoom in there if you can see it. And you have to forgive me, my monitor is a little slow down here, so I'm not seeing if you can see that very well. But the artist, Chris Sprouse, actually signed these. So his signature there is on both of those. So I went and picked it up mostly because of that. Now, this is the book that I won't pass up because you never know when Stan Sakai is going to make another trip across the country. I don't think he's been on the East Coast since after COVID. Since COVID, I don't think Stan has been out to the East Coast. So I'm hoping that maybe by next year, whether it's at Heroes Con or Baltimore Comic Con, we'll see Stan Sakai again. But I picked this up. This is from a couple years ago. Free Comic Book Day from Usagi Yojimbo. I might have had him sign this already, another copy of that, but I won't pass up Usagi Yojimbo issues. Those are gold. And then they had a nice little run of Spectacular Spider-Man, and a bunch of them were not in really great condition. But two of them here were really nice. This one right here was issue number 49, and I don't know if that's the first appearance of the Smuggler, but I didn't really care because for $3, the condition on a fairly early Spectacular Spider-Man was pretty good. But this one right here is actually a little bit of a key. And it's been in the last year or so, they've been talking about this book right here. It's you got the Hypno Hustler. And that's a character they talked about developing and putting out there. I mean, be honest with you, it sounds really stupid. I mean, you know that they're going to, if they put a character like this out, they're going to make it stupid and they're going to try to make jokes, and it's just not going to come off well. So I don't know. I think the spec on something like this has probably died down a lot, but I've never had the book, so issue number 24 there. And then this is a book that if you go to a show, and if it's in the condition that it's in here, they would be probably charging you $20, $25, maybe $30. And it's one of the issues from Daredevil, Frank Miller run, the Born Again storyline. This is issue 231. That's in really nice shape. For $4, I went ahead and took it just because you'd never be able to buy for $4 from any dealer you go to a show. And now here's a book that definitely a Neil Adams cover. I never had this. Never had a lot of the Defenders after the first 10 issues. But this right here was in really nice shape. This is issue number 36. And you got I want to say it's probably the first appearance of the new Red Guardian right there. Don't know that for a fact. I didn't look it up before I shot the video. But that's a great Gil Kane cover. I'm pretty sure about that. But this is in really nice shape. And I don't think there's any spec on that. But again, this is a book that's old enough that when you can find a book that's in super great condition like this, I just didn't want to pass it up. And then the last book that I picked up from this particular dealer, I saw this book the last time I was there when I picked up a bunch of his Captain America books. I probably didn't pick this one up because I'm not really sure why, but I picked it up this time, and it's issue number 252. It is part of that John Byrne storyline. He was doing the issues at that point. I had the issue before this. I had it when I was a kid. And I remember Cap's taking on Mr. Hyde, and is it Batroc? I never can know how to pronounce that name. You would think I would know how to say it after having him in the Captain America Winter Soldier movie. But I remember this. Cap gets defeated at the end of the last issue, and they string him up on the front of a cargo ship. And they're going to ram the cargo ship into the dock and, of course, kill Captain America. And I was like, I wonder how he gets out of that. So I'll have to read this, definitely, to find out what happened in that issue. And then the last book I ended up picking up, you guys saw it. If you paid close attention, it was probably one of the best keys that were in the cases. And I had to ask them to come and open up the case. And I took the book out and took a look at it. It's in pretty good shape. We'll see. I'm not really interested in necessarily getting it graded for any profit or anything, but it's a book that I've always wanted in my PC. I was not reading these stories, and I'm telling you, it's an Amazing Spider-Man issue, but I wasn't reading Spider-Man at the time. I had stopped buying Spider-Man, and I hadn't gotten back into it. I probably didn't get back into this run of Spider-Man until probably, I want to say, probably another 2 or 3 years later. Maybe, yeah, probably 2 or 3 years later after this even. But I never had this, but I've looked at it before. It's super hard to get it in super high grade because of this black cover. If you guys recognize that, that's Spider-Man number 36. This is the 9/11 tribute issue. You got John Romita art in there, and like I said, it's in really nice shape, and we'll definitely get it back out of the bag and double check. I may end up getting it graded, but it's one of those things where I don't know if I'd want to sell something like that. I think I'd probably want to just hold on to it in the PC. But that's a really nice copy. This is the best book I bought all day, and I'm just happy to have this in the PC at this point. But that's it. That's all the books I picked up from these two antique malls. If you guys get a chance, you're in Virginia and driving down 81, definitely stop off at Strasbourg Flea Market. That's in Strasbourg, Virginia. You can look them up online. Same for a factory antique mall in Verona, Virginia. Give these guys a shot. Enjoy your time. You can find a lot of other stuff there too, but I'd be curious to hear about your adventures when you go there and see if you can find anything as well. Neither one of them are the best comic book places I've seen. I've seen better antique malls with better comic books, but still pretty good. And definitely enjoyed my time there, especially stopping in Verona, Virginia, like I do on every trip down here to West Virginia. I stop at the Dairy Queen there because they make a great Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Blizzard. Can't pass that up. Every trip I come down, I get one of those. But that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, definitely hit that like button, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you guys won't miss out on any of my episodes that I put out every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. That's it. I'm gone. I'm out of here. I will see you guys for the next episode. And just remember, every comic has a story.